Hi guys, so today I am talking about the difference between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you've probably noticed that I've been talking a lot about toxic relationships. And what I'm doing actually is, as of a week ago, I decided to shift my focus of work on helping people, both men and women, overcome a pattern of toxic relationships so that they can find and maintain a love that they actually desire and they deserve. So what are relationships? Relationships are the way in which we relate to people, right? In this case, we are going to be talking about relating to people romantically. And what's interesting is that the way in which we relate to people is we've learned those ways of relating, in our childhood through what we saw our parents model, or our caregivers, or our friends, or whoever we spent so much time around. And the way that they related to their spouses or their loved ones is the way that we in turn learned how to relate to our partners. And some of those ways of relating were healthy, and some of those ways of relating were unhealthy. So a toxic relationship, toxic meaning bad, harmful, not good, okay? So in any relationship, no relationship is perfect. There's arguing, there's jealousy, there's, conflict of whatever sort. However, when it is frequent and when it is, consistent and harmful and consuming, that's when it's toxic. That's when it's actually impairing your life, and it needs to be addressed. So a toxic relationship is a set of behaviors from the toxic person that is emotionally and physically damaging. So it usually damages your self-esteem and drains your energy. On the contrary, a healthy relationship adds to your self-esteem. It builds your self-esteem and gives you energy as opposed to taking it from you. And in a healthy relationship, there's mutual caring, there's respect, there's honesty. You want the other person to succeed genuinely. You want to see them grow. You want to see them happy. You feel safe. You feel secure. You feel comfortable. It's really, you just have more peace of mind as opposed to that unstable, that unpredictability that a toxic relationship has. So I'm going to go over some ways in which a toxic person can control another person. And I want you guys to just take note, because some of these behaviors you might also be doing. When I read through this and I educated myself on toxic relationships, I was surprised. I felt really ashamed that I, exhibited some of these behaviors in my relationship. And it was really hard to take responsibility for that. But if we can take responsibility for it now, we're not going to end up sabotaging other relationships or ruining future relationships from these unhealthy ways of relating. So one way that a toxic person can control another person is by belittling them. So if they are making fun of you when you express your ideas, your beliefs, your opinions, they belittle them, and then they tell you, I was just kidding. Why do you take everything so seriously? Right? The reason why that's toxic is that if it's frequent and they're doing it often, little by little, that tends to break down your self-esteem. That environment, being around that negativity, doesn't make you feel good. It actually hurts you. So you want to be surrounded by people that uplift you, that support you, as opposed to people that break you down. So the second way that someone can control you is through having a bad temper. So someone who has a bad temper, when you try to, they can't argue in a meaningful way. They can't communicate with you in a mature way. It always escalates into them getting super upset, and then they turn it on you and they blame you for even bringing it up and making them feel this way. So the third way a toxic person can induce control is by making you feel guilty. So these are people that every time that you do something wrong, they make you feel guilty and bad for it. And then they induce even more control by temporarily taking away the guilt from you until you feel better again, and then throwing it back into your face. So this is really bad. This is a really, really bad one. And you see this a lot with like parent-child interactions. But what happens is that like the victim or whoever it's being done to, we become addicted to that because we put so much power into the other person, and, you know, we want to be forgiven. We don't want to feel like a bad person. So, you know, it can become very addicting when we fall for this type of behavior. The next form of control is the overreactor deflector. So these are people that, you know, you go to your partner and you try expressing to them your unhappiness, or that you're sad, or that you are angry about something, and then they end up getting angry or sad or whatever it is, and you end up taking, you know, care of them and comforting them, as opposed to them comforting you when you are coming to them with something that you're feeling, right? So this is a way of deflecting what's going on. Another way of, you know, another version of deflecting is when you get upset at them for something and then they find a way to make it your fault, right? Everything is your fault. You're the crazy one. You need to change. It's absurd. So next is the overdependent partner, and these are people that are very passive in relationships. They want you to make all of the decisions: where you eat, what car you buy, what city you live in, you know, what decor to buy, whatever it is. They want you to make all of the decisions. They don't make any decisions, and what happens at the end is that they end up using your decisions as a way to make you feel bad about you know, what you bought or what you did. It's just another form of control, right? So this is the overdependent partner. This is the partner that is very passive in the relationship and ends up making you feel bad for the decisions that you made. The next form of control is the user. The user, I mean, the name is self-explanatory. Users are energy drainers. What they do is they take and take from you, and they don't give anything back. If you do get something back, it's maybe like a $5 meal or a little present here and there that's ridiculous, but usually you are just giving so much to them, and they aren't giving anything back to you. So it's very, very draining of your energy and your resources and your life and your happiness. So lastly, we have the possessive, paranoid, toxic controller. This is one that I actually see a lot of people doing. You know, it starts with jealousy. It's that person that's super jealous, and then the paranoia comes, and then you end up checking their phones, checking their texts, checking their emails, checking their accounts, seeing what they're doing, right? Like, you just become so overly controlling and paranoid. And another thing that happens with these types of controllers is they tend to isolate you from your friends, from your family, from your loved ones. They are just very possessive, and they want so much control that they just end up possessing your life. It becomes, you feel, you know, very stuck and consumed, and it's just a very, very awful feeling. And this behavior, I think, it can just be very toxic. And I know that I know so many of us, and I've done it before, where, you know, you check your phone and check the other person's phone, and you want to see what's going on. Like, maybe you're unsure, but don't even engage in that. Don't engage in that at all, because really you're just adding poison into your cup of, you know, relationship. Envision your relationship as a cup of water. By doing those things, you're adding little drops of poison in there, which ends up contaminating the whole thing. stay out of that. Don't engage in any of that behavior. So you might be thinking, this is me, holy shit, I definitely exhibit some of these behaviors in my relationship, or I have in the past, and I really don't want to be this way again or go through that shit again. And I just want to say, first of all, you know what, it's human nature to get angry, to get jealous, to be controlling sometimes when we're feeling insecure in our relationships. But what distinguishes a toxic relationship is really the severity of it, right? And how often is it happening? Is it every day? Is it every other day? Is it, once a week? Really pay attention to how often this is happening, how often it is consuming you or consuming the other person. Is it impairing your life? Is it causing you to not make certain decisions, to walk on eggshells, to not be yourself, to isolate yourself from your friends? Really take note of those things and just, be honest with yourself. Like, is this worth it? Is this something that we can change? Has this been going on for so long? Have we tried to change it and nothing works? Because really what makes a toxic person toxic, and also the victim, what makes this victim or the target that the toxic person is controlling on both parts, it's really poor self-esteem rooted in an underlying insecurity. So it's really just insecurity. It's the fear of not having our needs be met, of not being able to be loved. And so we exert control, or we stay in these unhealthy relationships because we believe that we're not going to find anything better, or that we don't deserve a healthy kind of love. So if this is you, you're exhibiting these behaviors of a toxic person, or you are the victim in most relationships, or both, I want to let you know from personal experience of, exhibiting both toxic behavior and being the victim in past relationships, there is hope for you. You don't have to go through these painful experiences anymore, but it does take work. It takes courage, it takes education, it takes self-awareness, and it takes action to change yourself so that you don't attract these types of relationships in the future, and so that you don't sabotage your relationships because of your own insecurities that you are bringing into the partnership. So let me know if this video helped you. My goal here was really to shed some light on what toxic relationships are, as I will be talking more about it and offering one-on-one coaching on helping people really overcome these destructive patterns so that they can experience like a fulfilling love, a happy, easy kind of love that gives you freedom to grow and to be yourself and to live your life. Because who doesn't want to live their life, right? And it's really nice when you have a partner that can support you in your dreams and your goals. So I'll also be recording a podcast soon, sharing with you my own personal experiences of how I overcame years and years, I'm talking about over a decade of toxic relationships, and how I was able to, cultivate self-love and find a fulfilling relationship.